Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I've hit record, so I'm recording this session, which will be available later on once we're finished. Welcome to Tools for Blended Learning in the Classroom, Part 2. Technically, this is a follow-up webinar. We did Part 1 last week, and then a couple of weeks before that, we had some wonderful secondary teachers teaching us about how they use blended learning in their classrooms in general. So this is kind of a follow-up to all of those different webinars. If this is your first time joining us, that is perfectly fine. You will certainly gain a lot of information out of tonight's webinar, whether or not you have joined us in the past. So welcome to all of our new faces, as well as those of you who are coming back again. I see a lot of familiar names in the attendee list tonight, so welcome back. You are muted and your camera is off, and you will not be able to turn those on at all during the webinar. You should be able to hear me, and you should be able to see my presentation on the screen. This webinar tonight is hosted by WHRO Public Media. We are located in Norfolk, and we are owned by 21 owner school divisions, and those school divisions requested some professional development on blended learning. So this is part of that blended learning series of professional development. We provide webinars all the time, though, so you can always check us out at whro.org/webinar to see what we have going on. And if you're one of our owner divisions, then our professional development is always free to you. And I am the one responsible for the professional development, so you could always reach out to me. And this is me. My name is Janie Everett. I'm the Educational Technology Manager at WHRO. So like I said, I just provide a lot of webinars and professional development for teachers. If there's something you're interested in learning about at your school, you can go ahead and contact me, and we can talk about some professional learning in the future after tonight. And my email is right there. Feel free to email me with any questions regarding tonight's presentation or anything at all. Before working at WHRO, I started off as an elementary school teacher. I've taught first grade and second grade and also fifth grade. After that, I became an instructional technology specialist at Virginia Beach City Public Schools. And from there, I moved on over to WHRO. If you have any questions as we're going along tonight, feel free to type those into the Q&A section here in Zoom. I'm not going to stop during the presentation to answer any questions in the middle, but after I'm finished presenting, I am going to check out that Q&A section, and I'm either going to leave some time at the end or stick around afterwards to answer as many of your questions as I can from that Q&A section. I'll try to check through the chat area as well, but that usually has a lot more messages to look through. The best bet is to put it in the Q&A section so I can answer it for you. After tonight's webinar, I'm going to be sending you an email sometime this week, probably by Friday. You'll have an email from me, and it will include a certificate of attendance for tonight for 1 hour of professional learning. It will also have a really brief survey so that you can let us know how we did, and also let us know what you'd like to see from us in the future. I'm currently trying to plan some more webinars for the near future, but I would definitely like some feedback on what you would like to see done. I'll also send you the link for my presentation slides that you'll be seeing tonight, so you'll have access to a copy of them. I will also let you know in that email where you can find the recording for this webinar, as well as any webinars that we have done in the past. We post all of those online, so I'll include a link for you. And I'll also give you some information on any upcoming webinars we have and where you can find those and dates for those and get registered for those as well. So I wanted to start off again. I'll go through this quickly because I know a lot of you have seen this already, but our title for our webinar tonight has blended learning in it. And that word kind of gets tossed around with some of these other terms when we think about virtual learning. So here are the different types of digital learning and what exactly they mean. And also, I want you to know that just because our webinar tonight has blended in the title, if you're doing something else on this chart other than blended, you're still very welcome here. All educators are welcome. You'll still find tonight helpful, even if you find that your style of teaching right now looks a little bit different. So blended learning is face-to-face with those online components. The online pieces are not supposed to replace any of that face-to-face instruction. They just enhance it. The flipped classroom is when students learn the bulk of their material online from the online resources. And then when they work face-to-face with the teacher, it's to fine-tune those skills that they learned online. Hybrid is face-to-face and online components together. However, unlike blended learning, the online pieces actually are intended to replace some of that face-to-face instruction. Virtual is complete online instruction. It could be synchronous or asynchronous. And concurrent is when the teacher teaches both face-to-face and virtual students all together at the same time in one classroom. And I know our attendees tonight are kind of all over the place on this chart, and that's great that we're able to effectively teach in so many different styles. So our secondary teachers who presented a few weeks ago gave us these really great tips for blended learning in the classroom. Post your schedule, both for your sake and your students' sake. Plan out your week. Lesson planning is more important now than it has ever been. Have clear expectations and make sure your students know those expectations. Be available for your students, not just while you're teaching, but make sure you have office hours or, an email that works, something that you can give your students where they can always get a hold of you at other times. Expect things to go wrong with technology. It happens all the time. It happens to teachers, it happens to me. Roll with the punches, go with the flow and move on. The students will hardly know what happened. And last but not least, choose helpful resources. And I am hoping that that's what I can help you out with tonight as we go through this presentation. I'm going to show you some digital tools that you can use in your classroom, your virtual classroom, or your face-to-face classroom that will hopefully make your life a whole lot easier. If you hear me talking about learning management systems tonight, or LMS, this is what I'm talking about. Learning management system is a program or a software that a lot of schools have in place to allow teachers to put all of their teaching materials in one digital location. These are some of the popular ones: Google Classroom, Schoology, Canvas, and so on. So all the tools I talk about tonight, even though they are independent tools on their own individual websites, they still all work really great with all these different learning management systems. And while you could use them individually and have your students go to them, you can also grab links or embed all of them into your learning management systems as well, so that your students really are just going into one place to find all of their materials for class. So here are the tools that we're going to go over tonight: Blooket, Screencastify, IXL, Padlet, the Bitmoji Classroom, and then very quickly at the end, I'll mention eMedia VA as well. All of these tools that I'm going to talk about tonight are free, except for one. And I really debated whether or not I should put IXL in this presentation tonight because it's not a great free site. However, when I was a teacher, IXL was one of my top 5 tools that I used in my classroom all the time. All the teachers that I've had present for me in the past couple of months about blended learning all use IXL at their schools. They highly recommend it. They love it. So we're going to start tonight with IXL. I think you will find it's a very powerful tool. You you can get a month of IXL for free if you sign up on the website. I recommend trying it out. And then if you love it as much as the rest of us do, that might be something you want to contact your administration on and see if there's any way they can help you out with that. That's what I've done in the past. I've just gone to my principal and asked if there's any way they could help me out with IXL. I've given them all the reasons why I'd like to use it in my classroom. And I always have more than enough data in the end to show my administrators, so that they can see how well it was working in my class for my students. So moving right along, we'll start with IXL, then we'll move on to all of our other wonderful free tools. You can access this great tool at ixl.com. And IXL, in a nutshell, is a great website where you can find practice problems for your students in any grade level and any subject. It goes from like pre-K to 12th grade, um, language arts, math, science, and social studies. It covers almost every single objective that you can imagine, every SOL you can imagine, and also gives you really great reports so that you can see exactly how your students are doing with those topics and what they might need some help on as well. So like I mentioned, IXL does have a 30-day free trial. I very highly recommend looking into it and seeing if it's something that you want to continue pursuing. Your students can always go to ixl.com on their own if you, as a teacher, don't have a membership. However, I believe they only get like 10 practice problems per day. And as a teacher, you don't really have any way to track that. So definitely a tool that's better if you have a membership. This link right here leads to the website where you can sign up for that free trial. And once you do, and you're on the website, you can just go ahead and click on Get Started. So the first thing IXL will ask you to do is add students to your roster. You can import students from like a CSV file. You can import an entire Google Classroom, or what I do typically in IXL is add them all individually. It's really easy. It doesn't take very long. You add their last name, their first name. If you want to add their email, you can, but that's not required. It automatically populates a username for them, and then you can change their password as well. So then from here, you can just let students know what their username and password is, and they go to ixl.com, they enter their username and password, and they're in. If you want to, you can also print or email those usernames and passwords for your students as well. Then what you'll want to do next is create a classroom, and IXL is probably the easiest site to create a classroom in. You click Start Using Classes, you add a class, you type the name of it. I typed in the name Class 1, and then done. That's all you have to do to create your classroom. So back on my roster, here's my whole list of students that I have added to IXL. Now I can just click on this blank space under the class column, click on class 1 and save. So I added all these students to class 1. You can have as many classes as you would like to, and you can quickly and easily add these students to those classes. All right, so like I said, IXL has math, language arts, science, social studies, Spanish. There's a Virginia SOL option at the top, and all of these different grade levels to choose from as well. And these are very effective practice problems that are really easy for students to navigate through. So I decided to go to 7th grade language arts, and here are all of the options that come up. This is not nearly all of them. When I scroll down, I can scroll down for quite a while until I hit all of the different topics that IXL has to offer just for seventh grade language arts, not even including all of the other grades and subjects as well. And for tonight's purposes, I believe I chose main idea. Number one, determine the main idea of a passage. So before you even click on anything, when you hover over this number one, this box pops up automatically with a sample question of what the students will see as they're doing these practice problems. And actually, these dots here show you how many practice problems will pop up. This one will stay up here for a couple of seconds. Another one will show up. So basically, it's just letting you see what types of problems your students would be completing without actually having to click in here, see if it's something you want, use the back arrow, all that. I decided that I did like this topic, main idea A1, so I went ahead and clicked on it. So at this point, what you can do and what a lot of teachers do is say to your students, all right, here's your homework or here's your classwork, your assignment. I want you to go on IXL and I want you to master A1, which is determine the main idea of a passage. And I did this all the time with my students. This is how I would assign it to them. I'd either write it on the board or I'd post a message in our learning management system and I'd say, hey, go into IXL and do A1. I want you to master it. And the students knew where to go. They'd go into IXL and complete it. And because they're part of your class and you created their account, as they work, you'll still get reports on them and you'll still be able to see all of the work they've done, even if you didn't actually assign it within IXL. However, you do kind of have that option too. So we're going to take a look at that. So right now I'm in A1, the main idea topic that I was looking at earlier. And if I hover over this little star right next to the title of the topic, this box pops up and I can suggest this to students. So it's not really like your typical um, digital site or your digital tool where you create a class and you assign things to students. It's called suggesting topics to students rather than assigning. So I can click here to suggest this topic to all of my students in class one, or I can click on the individual students in class one who I feel need to work on this topic because maybe not all of them need to work on it. Maybe JP Evers has mastered this topic, but Jan Ev still needs to work on it more. So, you can either, like I said already, you can tell your students, go find A1 and work on it, or you can say, hey, I suggested some things for you in IXL. Go look at my suggestions and work on those. It's up to you how you want to go about doing that. All right, and here's a very brief video on what IXL looks like from the student's angle. So this is a student who's logged in, and this is what they see when they come in to do their IXL work. And I don't believe this video has any sound, by the way. So they can see one skill has been suggested by their teacher, and it's A1, so they click on it, and now they're going to do some practice problems. Ooh, that one was incorrect. So my favorite thing about IXL is this really lengthy explanation that it gives the student on why they got that answer incorrect. The second one they got correct. Ooh, that one was incorrect again. And you'll also notice that it's keeping track over here of how many they've answered and what their SMART score is. So they can kind of see how well they're doing. And of course, you as the teacher are going to be able to see how well they're doing too. So I also wanted to show you this type of question wasn't in the video, but it's not always multiple choice. There are a couple other types of questions. Sometimes they have to type something in. Sometimes they have to label a diagram like we see here in this. This is an actual IXL question that I stumbled upon last night that I worked on. And as you can see, it's a diagram where I had to click and drag the correct terms to the correct locations on this water cycle diagram. So not all multiple choice. I will say most of them are multiple choice, but there are some other question types as well. All right. So back to the teacher view here. If I want to go check out how my students did, when I'm logged into IXL, I'll just click analytics at the top. And first on my dashboard, it just kind of gives me this really great brief summary of how my class is doing in general, how many skills they've mastered, how much time they've spent as a whole class on IXL in a year, how many students are actively working on IXL, and all sorts of things like this. IXL has a ton of different reports that you can look at and diagnostics, but I definitely don't have time tonight to go through all of them. So I picked two of my favorites to show you. I really like clicking on students and then students quick view. So I can see, again, kind of a brief summary here of what all of my students have done. But if I continue to scroll down the page, I can see the individual students, every single topic they have worked on. The star here means it's one that I suggested to them. The one that doesn't have a star means it's one that they just went in and worked on themselves. How many questions they answered, how many minutes they spent on it, and how much time they spent on it today. And you can go back through the entire school year to look at their history for the entire year. And then you can see this student here hasn't done any IXL work yet at all, so I might want to contact that student. One more great feature about IXL is the live option. If you click on live in your dashboard, you can see all your students down here who are currently working on IXL. At this time, only one of my students was working on IXL, and I could kind of see a brief little summary of what they're doing and what they're working on. And the really cool part about this is this little paper airplane symbol here. If you click on that, it actually lets you send a message to your student through IXL. So as they're working, if there's something really important that you need to say to them immediately, you can message them right here and they'll see it on their computer as they're working. So here are some IXL resources. I'm not going to go through them, but they're available to you to look at in your extra time if you have more questions or want to learn more about IXL. In case you weren't here for my last presentation, these computers are all links. So if you click on these, they're going to take you right out to these resource websites where you can learn more information. And then, of course, if you have any questions, type them in the Q&A. I'm not going to see them until the end, but I can try to answer your questions at the end after I get through all the rest of our tools tonight. All right, moving on to Blooket. This is another tool that's actually pretty new to me. I hadn't heard about it until like maybe a month ago, and I checked it out and I decided that I really, really liked it. So I'm going to include it tonight. And I think the students will really enjoy it too. It is a way to gamify your classroom. It reminds me a little bit of, some other game sites like Quizzes and Kahoot and Quizlet and things like that. But what I like better about it is that it has a lot of really great graphics and I included some of them here. And as you know, sometimes that's all it takes to grab the attention of a student and pull them in is just something really cool to look at and to really immerse them in that like game feeling. And I feel that Blooket does a really good job of that. So you can access at blooket.com. It has a Google login, which, as I always say, makes my life so much easier. So when you log into Blooket, this is what your teacher dashboard looks like, and you'll want to create a set. You can also go up here to this purple bar across the top to create a new set, Basically, that means a set of questions. All right, so here's what it looks like as you're creating a set of questions. You can add a picture, you can upload a file, or you can upload a picture by URL. You want to give it a title. I called it fractions, and then a description. And then here are your privacy settings down here, which are all personal preference, and then create your set. I'm going to go ahead and add a question. Another cool thing is that if you are a user of Quizlet, you can import question sets that you have already made in Quizlet, which is really cool. We're not going to get into that tonight, but I'm just going to show you how to add your questions manually in here. All right. So for your question, this is where you type the text for your question. If you want to, you can also add a question image, which you'll see I've done for a couple of mine. And down here is where you put the answers, and you'll check the box for the one that is correct. You can give your students a time limit, and you're able to change that. And you can also decide if these 4 answers show up in the order you put them in or in a completely random order. And then you click save once you've typed in all this information. So for this fractions set, excuse me, I've created 3 questions. You, of course, can create a ton more, but for this set, I only created 3 questions. And of course, you have the option to go back in and edit those or get rid of them, make a copy of them, whatever you would like to do. Once you feel that your set is all finished, you can click on Save Set. All right. So here are my sets. I only have this fraction one, and you can host these games in 2 different ways. You can do a solo game, which means you're just playing by yourself, or as the teacher, you can host a game, which means all of your students will be playing this game together all at the same time. If you choose solo, here are your options. There are only 4 of them, and it will take your questions. Like, for example, I made questions about fractions. It takes my fraction questions and it puts them into these really cool game formats. Or if you choose host, it takes your questions and lets you pick from all of these different 9 options. And if you hover over one of these, it's going to kind of give you a gist of that game and kind of explain the rules and the directions of it for you. So I hovered over racing, or maybe I clicked on it, and it gives me a little description of the racing game and some suggestions at the bottom for how many players should be in it and whatnot. I decided to go with the racing game for my students. I'm hosting it so a bunch of my students can play it at once, and then I clicked on host game. I have a couple of last minute options here. Again, these are personal preference. They're totally up to you. I took the number of questions down because I wanted this to be a little bit shorter, and then I clicked on host now. As the teacher, when I click on host now, this is what I'm seeing on my screen. I'm seeing a code that I'm going to give to my students so that they can join the game. And as my students join, I see how many players have joined my game. And I also see their names down here. So very, very similar to Kahoot. I think they might even be the same company or something because the fonts are very similar as well. But anyway, very, very similar to Kahoot. Now, this is what it looks like from the student's view. So as a student, I went to the website, I entered the code, I had to type in my nickname, which was J Ever. And then I had to pick one of these little animal avatars. And now we're going to see what it looked like for me as the student to play the game. I'm not sure if this one has sound or not. It does. So you can see I added pictures to my questions because this fraction game wouldn't be the same without pictures. Oh, I got that one incorrect. So now I want to show you what this looked like from the teacher's view. As my students were playing this game, here's what I was seeing on my teacher screen. And if I were in a face-to-face classroom, I would probably project this on my board so my students could see it. So here's what it looked like from the teacher view. So you can see as the students were answering questions correctly, their little icon moves forward towards the finish line, and then the game ends as one of the students actually reaches the finish line. And I also purposely got one of the questions wrong so that I could see if my character went backwards, and it did not go backwards for a wrong question. It just stayed still on the racetrack. And then here at the end, I see who came in first, who came in second, and it asks me if I want to play this game again with my classroom. As a student, when I was finished, I saw what place I came in and also a leaderboard of where the other students were at. I saw how many questions I got right, how many I answered, and also what percent that is. And then also gave me the play again option. So here's one of the other games. I'm obviously not going to go through all of the games tonight, but I wanted to show you one of the solo games that I came across, um, where you like work in a diner and you have to make food for all the characters that come in. So here's what that solo game looked like, where I would be playing by myself rather than against my whole class. So every time I get one of those questions right, it restocks my buffet with food. And then I have to feed all of the people who come into my diner. So there, my plate is restocked with toast. I gave it to the fox, and I have to restock my buffet again. And it keeps going like this. So Blooket, like most other sites, has a discover option, which you'll see up here at the top in your purple toolbar. If you click on discover, you can see games and sets that other educators have made and made public for you. So you can go ahead and search through all of these. And if there's one you find that you like, you can make a copy of it and you can use it with your students as is, or you can edit the copy you made and then use that edited copy with your students. And here are some additional Blooket resources. All these computers are links, and you can go out and check these out on your own time. And Blooket's a really, really great one. Like I said, I really like all of the graphics and the gaming features in this one. It really hooks students and pulls them in and makes them want to play. And also, as they're playing, they earn these coins for doing well in the games, and then they can actually use the coins to like fake purchase other characters in the game and other animals and things like that. All right, moving on to Screencastify. Screencastify is an extension for your Chrome browser, so you have to be using Google Chrome to use it. To get Screencastify, you can go to screencastify.com. And basically, Screencastify lets you record everything that's happening on your screen. And you can also choose to record your voice along with it as well. It's really, really great for creating tutorials for your students. Say if you're trying to show them how to use a new digital tool, you can do a Screencastify with directions. Or if you are in a completely digital classroom and you want to show your students how to solve a math problem as you're working the problem out on your screen on like a digital whiteboard or a Jamboard or something, you can Screencastify yourself doing that and then send the link to your students so that they can view your video. So like I said, you'll go to screencastify.com, you'll click on add to Chrome, and it will take just a couple of seconds to download to your Chrome browser. When you first download Screencastify, you'll get a screen that looks like this, and you'll need to make sure that you allow Screencastify to use the camera and the microphone on your computer. Once Screencastify has installed, which is very, very quick, it's going to show up in the very top right corner of your web browser, right here with all the rest of your extensions. And it's going to be the little coral pink orange colored arrow with the camera inside of it. When you click on that Screencastify arrow, you're going to get a little box that looks like this, where you get to choose all of your options for your recording. You can choose to record just your browser tab that you have open. You can choose to record your entire desktop, or you can choose just webcam, which wouldn't be your screen at all. It would just be recording your face. You also can choose to have your microphone off or on. I usually have it on because during these screencasts, I'm usually talking and narrating what's going on the screen. But if it's a video that doesn't require any sound, you can certainly keep that off. And then this webcam right here is a little bit different from the webcam up here. If you choose big webcam up here, it's just going to be your face recording. It's going to be a video of you. If you choose this webcam here, it's going to be recording your screen, but a tiny little version of your face is going to show up in the bottom corner so that your students can see your screen, but also your face in the bottom corner together at the same time. Also, Screencastify, the free version only allows, I believe, 5 minutes of recording. There is a plan that you can purchase, which I want to say is like $24 for a whole year or something like that, that does give you unlimited amounts of recordings and recording time. But 5 minutes really is a pretty decent amount of time if you're just making a quick tutorial on how to solve a math problem or how to use a digital tool or something like that. So once you're ready and you have all of your settings chosen, you click on the record button, and then it gives you a little 3, 2, 1 countdown in the middle of your screen. And it also gives you some tools down here at the bottom, some annotation tools and things. So I'm going to show you a brief video of what Screencastify has to offer. This video was me in my Chrome web browser. You can see I was still in IXL, and I was using Screencastify to record my screen and to draw something. So here's what that is going to look like. In this video, I am going to show you how to use the tools that show up at the bottom of your screen while you're using Screencastify. The first tool is the focus mouse. If you click on this, it provides a spotlight everywhere that your cursor moves. The next tool is hide cursor. So when you stop moving your cursor around the screen, it disappears. The next tool is highlight clicks. So every time you click on something, a red circle will appear around it to show the viewers where you have clicked. You also have a pause option if you need to stop your video temporarily. And this is your pointer tool. You also have a pen tool that you can use a variety of colors with. and you have an eraser tool as well. In this video, all right. So when you have recorded your whole video and you're ready to end it, you're ready for it to stop, you just go back up to the top right corner of your browser. You click on this little arrow again. Another box pops up. It shows you how long your recording is so far. You have the option of stopping, pausing, restarting over if you messed up, or just completely trashing it if you want to get rid of the whole video in general. If you choose to click on stop, a new browser tab will open up showing you the video that you just created. So I'm going to click on stop. Here's my new browser. Here's the video I just created. It gives me some very limited editing options so that I can cut parts out of the video if I want to. But most importantly, it gives me all of these sharing options over here on the right-hand side. So what I love most about Screencastify is that now that I've clicked stop and I've ended my screen recording, it has automatically saved to my Google Drive. And it has also created a folder for me. So if I go over to my Google Drive right now, I'm going to see a brand new folder called Screencastify. The video I just made is going to be saved there. And any other Screencastify recording that I make in the future is also going to be automatically saved in that folder. As you can see, I can just very quickly click on this button, grab that shareable link and send it out to my students. I could publish it to YouTube if I wanted to, send it in an email, or I could get the embed code for it. And if you know how to embed in your learning management system, you can embed this video right there so that your students don't even need to leave their learning management system to watch your tutorial. I'm not really going to get into how to embed in different learning management systems because it's different in all of them, but that should be something that the tech crew at your school can help you out with. And that's a really great option. So here are some additional Screencastify resources that you can check out after our webinar is finished. I highly recommend this guy over here, the Ditch the Textbook guy. He has a lot of really great ideas for Screencastify. And not only is this a tool that teachers can use, but once I became really comfortable with it as a teacher and a tech specialist, I also started having my students use it as well. And I started with my older students, but I think I got all the way down to second graders using Screencastify to record things that they were doing on their computers, and then they were sending them to me. So definitely start slow, start with using it yourself and see what you can do with it. But there are a lot of options and ways to grow with Screencastify as you advance. Next, I want to show you Padlet. And Padlet reminds me of a big digital bulletin board. Being in school as both a student and a teacher, I remember all of these bulletin boards hanging in the hallways in the classrooms, and things that students created would be posted and tacked up onto these bulletin boards. And that's exactly what Padlet reminds me of, except it's the digital version. You make these big boards and students can go add ideas and pictures and all sorts of different things to them. You can access it at padlet.com, and it has a Google login, which I love. All right, so here's what your dashboard looks like once you log into Padlet. Here are the ones I have created in the past. Right now, I believe the limit of Padlets is 5. I think you can only make 5 of them for free in the free version. However, it's really easy to repurpose them. You can easily edit them. You just click on these little 3 dots and then you click edit and you can go in and change everything. Or you could just completely delete them and create a whole new one from scratch. So even though there's only 5, I constantly find myself deleting old ones and creating new ones for new purposes. So you'll go ahead and click on the plus sign, make a Padlet, and then you get to choose which type of Padlet you want. The most popular one that I use quite a bit is a wall. Everything that the students post just kind of show up randomly scattered all over the place, very similar to an actual bulletin board, but you have all these different options as well. I'm also going to show you, aside from wall, I'll be showing you shelf and map tonight, but all of these other ones are really great to check out on their own. So for the first one, I chose wall. That's kind of the most basic. And here's what it looks like. You get to add a title, digital tools, and you get to add a description. So basically the directions tell your students what you want them to post here. I said share your favorite digital tools. You can pick an icon if you want. All of the emojis show up. I chose the laptop. Here's the link to my Padlet. You can also change the wallpaper, which is the background here, and the color scheme between light and dark. If you scroll down a little bit, you have some more options. You have a couple of font options. There aren't too many, which I like. You know, we don't get too carried away with trying to make it look pretty. It does look pretty, but we get to focus more on the content than what it looks like. And then a couple of, we'll call them security options here. I always choose to have the students' names show up above their post. You can decide if you want them to be able to comment on each other's posts or not, decide if they're able to like or thumbs up or give a star rating to the posts. If you are concerned about what your students might post, you can require approval. So every time a student goes to post something, you would have to approve it on your end before it would actually post on the Padlet. And you can choose the profanity filter as well. Not exactly sure how that works, but it looks like if someone were to type a bad word, Padlet can pick up on it and cover it up. But you won't have to worry about that if you do the require approval option. So to share your Padlet with students, once it looks the way you want it to, and you're ready to share it with your students and have them start adding to it, you click on share right up here at the top. And then here are your different share options. Padlet has a ton of share options, which is really cool. You could invite them by typing in their emails or whatever. That's not usually what I do, but it's an option. You can copy the link, go throw it in your LMS, and they can opt or get to it that way. You can get a QR code for it. You can get the embed code so that you can embed it in your LMS, email it to them, share on social media, or just send it right to your Google Classroom if you have Google. When it's time for you and your students to actually add content to the Padlet, you click on the pink plus sign down in the bottom corner, and here's what it looks like. Your name comes up at the top, and then you give it a title, and then you add some content. If you click on the 3 little dots here, these are all the options that pop up of items that you can add to your post, which is really cool. You can upload something from your computer. You can add a link. You can search Google right here. A picture that you've taken, videos, voiceovers, drawings, locations, a link to another Padlet, all sorts of things that you can add to your post. So here's what a Padlet looks like after a couple of people have already added to it. Of course, whoops, these are all mine. They all say my name, but as your students add, you're going to have posts all over the place with different names on them as your different students add to here. So you can see it just kind of looks like a big bulletin board where students are adding things. Someone added a map location, someone added a drawing. This one was a GIF, so it was actually moving. Somebody added a link, a picture, all sorts of good things. This person just wrote text. And then you always have that one student who just wants to talk about their dog instead of what's going on in class. So all sorts of really cool options here. And I'm going to show you those two other Padlets that I made so you can see some different options, not just ones that are in the wall format. So this was the map option. I titled this one Civil War Map, and my directions were each group was assigned a battle of the war, place that battle on the map, include at least one important photo, and type a brief summary of that battle. So this group had Gettysburg. They chose a picture that they felt went along with Gettysburg, and then they typed a very brief summary of the Battle of Gettysburg. Here's another one I created, and this was the shelf option. And in shelf, you can create different columns. So as the teacher, I created isosceles, equilateral, and scalene. And then my students had to go in and I said, draw 3 triangles and place them in the correct columns. So my students clicked the plus sign, they included a drawing, they drew triangles, and they moved them to the correct columns where they felt those triangles belonged. Here are some additional Padlet resources for you that you can check out in your own time. And we are going to move on to my last one and my absolute favorite, the Bitmoji Classroom. The Bitmoji Classroom is a little bit different from all the other tools that we talked about tonight because everything else that we talked about, Padlet, IXL, Blooket, Screencastify, those are all actual like sites and companies. The Bitmoji Classroom is just educators getting really creative. This is not something that I came up with. This is something that I saw other teachers doing on Twitter. And you've probably heard of it as well because it's really blown up this year. So I decided to play around with it and make some of my own Bitmoji classrooms and show other people how to do it. When I first saw Bitmoji Classroom, I was really overwhelmed because I was like, whoa, that's really complicated. Who has time to make that, right? Like, look at this thing. I was like, there is no way I'm going to be able to make that. But as I started to dig around a little bit on my own, I was able to start making these pretty quickly. So tonight I'm going to show you how I make my Bitmoji classrooms, and I'm going to give you some really useful tools and tips to be able to make something that looks like this in just a really short amount of time because it looks like a ton of effort went into it, but it truly wasn't quite as much as you think. So here on my screen is an example of a Bitmoji classroom. It's actually just a Google slide that has a bunch of pictures in it. They're just a bunch of pictures that I found in Google that I put into a slide. And a lot of these pictures are actually links. So they link out to other things. So you might have, I just have welcome to second grade here. Click around the room to learn more about Mrs. Everett. But you might have some different assignments typed out on the board. And as your students click on the assignments, those are actually links that take them out to other sites where those assignments are. So again, sounds like a lot right up front, but I'm going to show you how to do it. It's actually very, very easy. Oh, at first I'm going to show you the examples of the ones I made. So here's another Bitmoji classroom that I made, which looks very detailed, but actually didn't take very much time at all. So here's what I was talking about in the last slide. Click here for morning work, click here for video lesson, click here for a Zoom meeting at 10:30. And the students would literally just click on those and it links out to the website that you want them to go to. Also, I'm going to tell you up front, I mentioned I'm giving you the link to my presentation. That includes this. So if you want to copy this slide or any of these slides, take them. I don't care. You can use them. You can get my Bitmoji out of there and use your own, and it's all good. Steal away. I made it all for you. Here's another one that I created. And here's another one that I created. This one I had in mind, the different flip charts. In my head, I was thinking students can click on this one, math flip charts, and it will link them out to an area, another website or something where I'm keeping pictures of all the math flip charts that I've made in my classroom for the whole entire year, something like that. And here's another one I made. I was a fifth grade teacher and we did those circuits. So what I was thinking here was, maybe each time they click on one of these tools on the table or on the board, it will lead them out to a video or an article or a resource that teaches them how to make circuits or why these tools are so important, why it has to be copper wire, not something else. All right, so let's get started on how you actually do this. You'll want to start on your cell phone and you'll want to download the Bitmoji app. This is what it's going to look like in your app store. And Bitmoji, that's when I refer to Bitmoji, it's the actual character. So, like this person right here, this is my Bitmoji. I created it to look exactly like me. You can choose the hair, the skin color, the outfits. You can change everything so that it looks exactly like you. And I know some people might be thinking right now, like, why would I do this? Students love it. Like, it's the cool thing right now. Kids love Bitmojis. And, if they're in a completely digital classroom, it really helps for them to see you, even if it's just digital you in your digital classroom. Everything helps. Graphics always pull students in. They love it. I have really good feedback on these Bitmoji classrooms from both students and teachers who are having a lot of success with them as well. All right, so you'll want to download this on your phone and you'll want to use your phone to make your Bitmoji look exactly the way you want it to. Then on your computer, you'll want to go to the Chrome Web Store and you'll want to add Bitmoji as an extension to your Chrome browser. You'll just click on that blue button. Right here is the link that you can click on. It's going to take you to this website, so you don't have to go searching for it. And just like with Screencastify, it shows up here in your extensions and it's this green square with the white face in the middle of it. So when you click on this little icon, your Bitmoji pops up in all of these different situations. Like, um, I don't know, sometimes they're wearing costumes, sometimes there are words and stuff like that. Helpful tip, as you probably noticed, my Bitmojis rarely have all this stuff going on around them. I like to pick ones that are just kind of my character standing there or pointing or something like that. So if you use the search bar and you type the word pose, you'll see a bunch of your Bitmojis just like standing there and sitting there and doing stuff like that without a whole bunch of stuff around them. You'll right click on the one that you want to choose and you'll just copy image and then you'll paste it wherever you want to. So I do a right click, copy, and then I just go paste it right into my Google slide. It's very easy. All right. So like I said, my Bitmoji classrooms are just Google Slides. So you'll go to your Google Drive, click on New in the top corner, and click on Google Slide. And you just want a blank presentation with nothing in it. Google Images will be your best friend. It's my best friend when I'm making a Bitmoji classroom. Here are some of the things I search for in Google Images. I type in walls and floor, couch, window, chalkboard, whiteboard, laptop, rug, chair, bookshelf, things like that. I find the ones I like and I copy and paste them right over to my Google slide. Another helpful tip is add the word graphic or the word clip art after your search to find options that better match your emote or your Bitmoji. If you just type in couch, you might get a bunch of like actual pictures of couches, but if you type in couch clip art, you'll get more cartoony looking ones that kind of match what your Bitmoji looks like. All right, one more Google search tool. I typed in couch clip art and all of these couches come up, but they have this like white background behind them. So if I put this picture on top of, a picture of a pretty wood floor, I'm gonna have this awkward white square around it. Here's how you get rid of that so you just have the couch silhouette. After you type in couch clip art or whatever you're searching for, click on tools, click on color, and then click on transparent. Now it's going to show you pictures of couches that are just the silhouette and don't have like a white or a colored background behind them. All right. I left this slide blank so that I'm almost finished, but I left this slide blank so I can really quickly show you how I throw one of these together. So it's not going to look great because I'm going to take like literally 30 seconds to do it, but you'll get the gist. First, I'm going to find the background. Okay, Google Images. So I'm going to type in couch. Oh, no, wait, not there yet. Background, walls and floor. All right. This one will do. Copy. I'm doing Control V for paste. There it is. And I'm just going to move it around, make it a little bit bigger so that it covers my whole screen. All right. Now I'm going to find furniture. Couch, graphic, tools, color, transparent. Let's go with this guy. Copy, paste. That couch is huge. Let's go ahead and resize it. Of course, I'm going to put more furniture in here, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and add a Bitmoji. Remember, I'm going to type in pose. I'll pick this one right here. Copy, Control V for paste. There I am. And my Bitmoji Classroom is finished. Of course, it's not. I would add a whole bunch of other things that I find, but for our sake right now, it's finished. I'm ready to share it with my students. Oh, no, I'm not, because I want to link out to something else. Okay. So let's add some text here, and I'll say, click here to read an article. And in my pretty Bitmoji Classroom, this would be on like a nice looking chalkboard or something, but hey, it is what it is. And I want my students to go read this article on Thurgood Marshall. So I'm going to copy the link for that Nat Geo article. I'm going to take this text, click on this little chain link to link it, Control V for paste, apply. So now my kids, when they click on this, it is going to lead them out to that site. I could do that with the couch if I wanted to. Click on the couch, click on the chain link, paste in that link, and there it is. So now if they click on the couch, it's going to take them out to the Nat Geo article. Now that it has links, I'm ready to give it to my kids. I'm going to click share. I want anyone with the link to be able to see this. Copy link, and now I'm going to send it to my students. That's it. I'm going to email it to them, or I'm going to post it in Schoology, which is my LMS, or if I know how to, I'm going to just embed this slide right in my LMS so that my students can see it without even having to leave, which is wonderful. And the last note about that, here are some Bitmoji Classroom resources. These are my favorite resources of the night because they all lead to Teachers Pay Teachers resources, and they are completely free. So these teachers have created like, excuse me, rugs and chairs and tables and couches and all of these really cool free things that they're giving to you to use for your Bitmoji Classroom. And these are actually where I got a ton of my furniture that you saw in my Bitmoji Classrooms too. So definitely check out these really great resources that these teachers have given. I also saw somebody in the chat mention, and I was going to mention it on my own also, remove.bg is a really great website too, where you can take pictures and remove the background from them really easily. So you could take a picture of yourself and get the background out of it if you wanted to use that instead of your Bitmoji or something like that. So, like I said, for Bitmoji, feel free to steal my stuff. That's what it's there for. You can get rid of my Bitmoji and put your own in and use it, or you can just take my couch or whatever you want. So the last resource, I'm not going to go through this. I know I'm past my time already. I just wanted to let you know that WHRO has this really great free resource called eMedia VA, and it's a content library with materials from all of these really great providers, and they give us videos and interactives and lesson plans and all sorts of really cool things. And my partner, Lindsay, is going to be doing another webinar on eMedia VA. She is an expert in it. Her next one is this Thursday at 7 p.m. You can register for that. She's going to be focusing on 6th through 12th grade, but if you're an elementary teacher, then you can certainly go to whro.org/webinar and you can check out her elementary geared webinar that she already did on eMedia VA. You'll also be able to find this recording there, as well as the recordings of all the presentations that I have done in the past. And here's my contact information one last time. And at that, I know we're a couple of minutes late, so if you need to head out, get out of here, feel free to go. But I'm going to go ahead and open up the Q&A and see if there are any questions waiting in there for me, and I'm going to try to get those answered for you. So definitely feel free to stick around if you would like to while I'm answering those questions. Otherwise, have a great night. Let me go ahead back to my Zoom and see if I can get to that Q&A. Okay. See a couple of questions here. Someone said, can you give me an example of hybrid learning? So hybrid is when, if you're a teacher and you have a class of 20 students, 10 of those students are in your classroom face-to-face, and 10 of those students are at home learning virtually. However, you're teaching them at the same time. So as you're teaching your face-to-face students, you're also recording yourself as you're teaching, and your students at home are watching you teach. So you literally have a classroom of some students who are right next to you and some students who are on Zoom with you, but they're all learning together at the same time. And not all teachers are teaching like that right now, but believe it or not, some are. And I'd be willing to bet that some teachers with us here tonight are teaching like that as well. In IXL, what does the VA SOL area offer? Let me go ahead and go back to IXL. Learning, Virginia SOL. All right, so here it looks like all of the SOLs are listed here, and these are links that you can click on that lead you to questions correlated with those SOLs. Okay, let me go back to my Q&A. Does IXL offer audio so the student can have the information read aloud to them? Let's see. So just looking here, it doesn't look like there is an audio option. Not that I'm seeing at least. However, I know it's going to work if you have some sort of screen reader installed on your students' devices. In the past, I was a special ed teacher, so I've had plenty of students who have had screen reader extensions installed on their browsers, and IXL has worked with those. I can't speak for every screen reader program in the world, but I know that it does work with many of them. Okay. In Blooket, does everyone see the students' individual scores? No. In Blooket, the students can see a leaderboard, so they can see where they came in place compared to other students. They can see who was first, who was fourth, who was 20th, but they're not going to see what percent the other students scored. Can you use Screencastify with a PowerPoint to make a full video? Absolutely. That's one of the number one ways that I use Screencastify. And remember, I mentioned that my students were using Screencastify too. I had, let's see, fourth graders make PowerPoints on I think it was like ocean floor features or something like that. And so they made these PowerPoints or these Google Slides with all of these pictures and text and things like that. And then they used Screencastify to record themselves giving a presentation of their slides. So they didn't have to stand up in front of the room and present their slides to me that way. They had to create a recording of themselves doing it. And then I had them share the link to their screencast with me in Schoology, which was my LMS. And that's how I graded them. I looked at them that way instead of having to take class time to have like 25 students stand up in front of the class and present to us. However, I also made those links available for the other students too. So the other students could see each other's recordings as well. How is Screencastify different than Loom? Honestly, it's not really different. It's just kind of personal preference. I know some teachers who prefer Loom and some who prefer Screencastify. I myself am a Screencastify user, but they are very, very similar. Can the Padlets be shared to Google Drive once created so you don't lose them if you don't want to delete them once you reach your 5 free ones? I don't think so. Let me go take a look at Padlet. I think I don't believe there's any way to share them in your Google Drive per se. Yeah, it looks like you can only archive and delete them. You can save them as images, PDFs, or Excel spreadsheets, or you can print them if you have students learning from home who don't have internet access. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't look like you can save them to your Google Drive. Okay. How do you place the Bitmoji classrooms at the top of your Schoology page? I'm not entirely sure what you mean. You can embed a Google slide in Schoology. I was an avid Schoology user, so that's what I used to do. I used to create Google Slides, and then in Schoology, I would create a page and I would embed the Google Slides right into my Schoology page. I'm not going to get into that tonight because it's a very deep, not a very deep process, but it's a little bit lengthy. And I also don't have a Schoology account anymore since I don't work at the school anymore. But embedding in Schoology, I would say either ask your tech specialist at your school how to do that, or just do a Google search for it. That's how I learned how to do it. I typed into Google, how do you embed Google Slides into Schoology? And I found some step-by-step directions on how to do that. Will this certificate be different than the first one? Yes. The title is going to say part 2 on the certificate, and the date is going to be different also. How do you become an educational technology teacher? That's different in every school district. They all have different requirements. I, of course, was a teacher first, and I was just using a lot of technology in my classroom, and I found that I was helping other teachers a lot as well. And so I decided to go back to get my master's degree in educational and instructional technology. And after I received that degree is when I became the technology specialist at Virginia Beach. Every school district is different. Virginia Beach did not require that master's degree, but it certainly was helpful. So you'll just have to check that out with the district you work for. Do you have to have a phone to use Bitmoji? You need to have a phone or a tablet or something like that. The Bitmoji website does not allow you to create your Bitmoji um, with like the hair and the clothes and everything. That part has to be done on the app. And then from there, you can download the extension on your computer. Can you put the link to your Google Slides in the chat? I'm not going to put it in the chat tonight because there are a few things I need to fix up before I send it out, but the email you receive from me this week will absolutely contain the link to my Google Slides. Oh, and someone said IXL does have audio, but only for second grade and below. Good to know. Thank you. Let's see. Someone said with Loom, you get, if you're using your educator email, you get the free pro version. So Loom might be something really great to check out too. Like I said, it's very similar to Screencastify. And if you get a free version of it for being an educator, that's wonderful. I know Screencastify was doing that for a while as well because of the pandemic. I'm not sure if they're still doing that though. What is the best way to assign an IXL skill? So like I showed you in IXL, let's go back there. You can hover over the star and you can suggest it to your students. Or you can just say to your students, go to IXL, work on 6th grade science H.3. And you can say, I want you to complete 10 problems, or you can say, I want you to work on it until you master it. And it's going to show them over here when they master the skill, which means they've practiced it a lot, they've gotten a lot of the questions right, and they've become very good at it. Go back to my Zoom. Okay. So I hit all the questions in the Q&A. If there are any that I missed in the chat or anything like that, feel free to email me anytime this week. Look for that email from me with information on my slides and my survey and where my recording will be posted. And on that note, I hope everybody has a really great night and enjoy the rest of your week. Happy teaching.